Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton at Big C Sports. Coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the number one network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the number one sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond, in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys in Canada. We love you in Africa, the Big C tribe. But there's no one we love more than the good old boys down south. They're the land of the free and the home of the brave on a beautiful August the 3rd, 2020. Rondo Deportes, Big C. How's it going for you good old boys down south?
Well, Charlton, we've tiptoed into August. There's 91 days left to November 3rd, election day, Charlton. And the president seems to still have no plans to combat this COVID-19 that is running rampant. And I wanted to say once again, thank you to our frontline healthcare workers, our nurses, doctors, first responders for the wonderful job you do every day. Stay safe, stay brave. Try to keep America healthy.
Keeping America healthy, and we'll do our part helping you. I want to say today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you, as well as a fleet of Cadillac cars also all around the world. Big C Sports is powered by Google and Alexa. Just say Google or Alexa, play Big C Sports Podcast. You will hear from our sponsors. You will hear welcome to the show. I will introduce Big C as the Mystic, and he'll do his thing, and I really appreciate the way things are growing with Big C Sports. You can follow Big C Sports on Xfinity, Comcast TV, Roku TV, Apple TV, Amazon Fire TV, also Spotify, as well as a lot of smart TVs all over the universe. But you better have a smart TV, or you'll be sitting there looking at a still picture. Big C, I love taking the pause. I also want to add that Audi says they have the best car in the universe. Come on, Audi, you could have given that to the Big C Sports Show. They were on TV, but I'm going to also say one of the best numbers to call in the universe to get people help is the Veterans Crisis Hotline. Big C, they really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. Big C, why is that so important to you?
Charlton, so many of our veterans struggle when they come back to civilian life after they've gotten out of the service. Many of them suffer from mental as well as physical conditions, Charlton. And a lot of these veterans, 22 a day in America, are committing suicide, a horrific number that we seem to not be able to get a hold on. Just like the president doesn't have a plan for COVID-19, he doesn't have a plan to help the veterans get through these tough times when they come back to civilian life in America. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, that we give out is a lifeline. There are experienced people there to help, to talk to people, to be non-judgmental, to help them off of these cliffs that they've gotten onto, Charlton. We have a lot of civilians, especially young people in America, that commit suicide also. So the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number, Charlton, is there for every American citizen. So if you see someone you think is struggling mentally and even physically, don't hesitate in giving out the National Suicide Prevention Hotline number.
Never hesitate, 800-273-8255. 800-273-8255. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255 and get some help. Also, if you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net, and you can get some help. Also, very happy to be affiliated with Valley Homes Weekly TV on Dish TV, Direct TV, AT&T, and Uverse TV 53, home of the San Francisco Giants and the Say Hey Kid. Just tell them Big C sent you. The goal is simple: recruit 100 real estate brokers, put their property listings on TV, just like McDonald's does it, car dealerships do it, and sports teams are doing it too. Let TV and real estate work for you. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. You can go online to bigcsports.pacwm.com. That's bigcsports.pacwm.com, and you can get some help. Also, really happy about things that are growing with Big C Sports. I want to tell you, Big C, I was listening to a commercial. You know, it's political season, and I heard a commercial by some of the farmers in Northern California. There's a highway called Highway 99, and Highway 99 runs from south of the Bakersfield, coming out of the Grapevine, all the way up into like Yuba City. So it runs pretty much all of California, the heartbed of agriculture. And they had number one, they had a Hispanic guy saying he wants to thank Donald Trump for the water, but he said, unfortunately, you chased all the workers away, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, he's chased everything away except for the coronavirus in America as we look at it. And here it is, he's stumping now, trying to get schools back open and get kids into school, and yet he has no answer for the coronavirus that has killed almost 155,000 Americans, Charlton. And when we think about two of the hottest states in America, Arizona, and I know they need water in Arizona, and Florida, where they sometimes get too much. The two largest school districts, Charlton, in both of those states have tested over 250 workers positive for coronavirus. We're not talking about the students. We're talking about the workers in the school, the teachers, and people that are going to be dealing with the schools. And also Georgia, their largest school district has jumped up into those numbers also, Charlton. So as the president is sitting around wondering what he's going to do next with TikTok, as the clock is ticking away
what is TikTok?
On him, he has no answer for this coronavirus in America.
Yeah, I thought, I think I'm somewhat technology challenged, Big C. I thought TikTok was a noise that my fake Rolex made when I bought it from a guy in New York City. It's TikToking and TikToking. I took it in to get it appraised, and they say Rolex don't tick. So anyway, Big C, I guess POTUS is finding out the same thing. TikTok can be something you don't want to deal with. But also, I'm telling you, when it comes to voting, everybody get out and vote. In 2020, if you do not vote, then just shut up. Just shut up like Mike Dicker and run when the country calls for you to serve the country and to stand up for American troops. Do what Mike Dicker did. Run away. Just shut up and run away if you don't want to vote. I want to jump on Major League Baseball, Big C. That St. Louis Arch is a beautiful, beautiful arch that overlooks the Mississippi River, Big C. Major League Baseball, St. Louis Cardinals COVID-19 outbreak. They have 13 positive tests in their series versus the Tigers, and it was postponed. Thinking about that, the arch is so beautiful in St. Louis, but the beauty cannot hide the fact that they're postponing baseball, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, we talked about this the other day, Charlton. What's it going to take for Rob Manfred to have a reality check? I mean, he's got to stop watching the Donald Trump press conference saying we got this under control and everything
TikTok.
is okay. When you've had multiple teams in Major League Baseball and you've canceled over 20% of your games already, Charlton, you haven't played 2 weeks and you've canceled over 20% of your games. And matter of fact, when you think about the Cardinals, they're still quarantined up in Milwaukee. They haven't left Milwaukee yet.
Wow.
So they can't even get out of town. So they're not only are they canceling their games, but they're stranded, Charlton, in the hotel still.
Really? I mean, more than half of the positive tests from players, as if who else they're going to be? Those are the guys that are out there treating saliva and spit. And then the number of positive tests in St. Louis Cardinals outbreak grew by 13 today. So as we talked about, 13 positive tests. I mean, they'll figure it out, Big C. Oftentimes, it's a lot easier. It's just like Mike Ditka. When people say, ask not, when Kennedy said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. Donald Trump and Mike Ditka, they didn't do a darn thing for this country. They ran and hid, Big C. You think about it. A lot of people are running and hiding from science. Major League Baseball, injured Colorado Rockies reliever Scott Orberg, who was already inactive due to a strained back, might miss the remainder of the 2020 season after he developed blood clots in his right arm. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you think about that. We talk about pre-existing conditions all the time, Charlton. And I'm going to think that blood clots are a pre-existing condition. And I would not want to go out and put my health at risk. And he developed them in his right pitching arm, you say. He's got to utilize that arm all the time. And so just think about the strain that he's putting on that arm. And as he gets a blood clot again while he's pitching, Charlton, that's not too far away from the heart.
No, it's not. So sometimes you got to let doctors come in and tell you if things make sense or not, because sometimes grown men don't tend to know how to make sense of things. When the check engine light comes on, some people, they just put a sticker. I've seen a guy put a sticker on the top of his check engine light, Big C, as opposed to taking it into the dealership. I guess that fixed the problem, but they still have the check engine light on. Like baseball won't turn off the check engine light. They won't go to the dealer. They just cover it up, Big C. Major League Baseball, believe it or not, COVID-19 pandemic. Baseball just threw out the first pitch about a week ago. 21 Major League games, 21 have already been postponed, and we've only been until maybe just a week and a half. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, I don't know how you can say that you were postponing games in a strike-shortened season, a COVID-shortened season, Dalton, because when will you have the opportunity to make these games up? I mean, we've always seen some cold baseball in October when they're in the World Series.
Yeah.
So what are they doing? Talking about pushing the World Series to Thanksgiving?
Yeah, be thankful for the World Series at Thanksgiving. Nobody wants to have a Thanksgiving World Series, but it's all fair and love and war. Major League Baseball, not 2 weeks old yet, but the schedule's been changed multiple times due to COVID-19 cases across the league. As many as 20 members of the Miami Marlins, including 18 players, have tested positive for COVID-19, and that's since opening day. The Cardinals are the second team during, I think, dealing with an outbreak, as we mentioned, 13 with them traveling. I mean, everybody has their own thoughts about who it is and how we're going to figure it out. And I'm even hearing some studies say as many as 21 different Major League Baseball games been impacted. So everybody knows it's just a matter. I think Manfred's going to just put a sticker. He's going to put a sticker on that check into like he's not going to take that car to the dealership. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he started up baseball, Charlton, and the thing that I'm more concerned about is we look at football, a sport that has even more physical contact than any sport that we've seen. And it's like baseball that you can't play in a bubble.
Yeah.
Rob Manfred is in what this thing called denial.
Yeah.
And he has to understand that denial is not just a river running through Egypt. It's what he's in right now mentally.
Yeah.
Is that he's thinking that he can get through this baseball season without any more, interruptions. And it's just not possible.
Yeah. I think sometimes you just need real talk. I think anyone that deals with anything, maybe you just want the dealer to tell you the truth. I know you don't want to replace that catalytic converter, or you may not want to replace the pistons in that, whatever it might be, something's making that light come on. They're going to tell you, it could be a loose gas cap. It could be a lot of things, but you don't know until you take it to the doctor and let them tell you what it is. So I just hope that we can all figure it out. I even think about Major League Baseball, Philadelphia, and they're ready to get off their layoff period when they had a lot of guys, test positive. That's part of those 21 games that have been set aside, Big C. You look at Philadelphia, face a difficult assignment if they face in return. I mean, because they still have players that tested positive, and they don't know how they're going to react, coming up in the next remainder of the games. If you're commissioner, Big C, it's easy to say just put everything on pause. But when you really got to get the money out of TV, how do you sell this? It's only 21 games, not 40 games. Your thoughts, Big C?
Well, Charlton, as a player, how do you sell it to the players? I mean, you're a person, and you're sitting around knowing that teammates are getting sick from this COVID-19.
Yeah.
And as we talked about, when players leave the locker room, Charlton, they're going in 60 different directions, as well as the staff is. And so you're going home or wherever you're headed to after you leave the facility, and you're coming back. Just as we talked about St. Louis, they're still quarantined up in Milwaukee. They can't even get out of town. I hope the credit card is good to pay the hotel bill.
Yeah.
But, as you look at this situation, mentally it has to bother the players.
Yeah.
That you're sitting there saying, well, am I next? If I catch this and I'm asymptomatic and I go home to my wife who has type 2 diabetes, how's it going to affect her? These are the things that are weighing on the player's mind more than anything else. I understand that everybody wants to make the TV money, but they should talk to the Senate.
Yeah.
Look at the Senate. They devoided all of America of these unemployment stimulus checks that they were getting.
I know.
Saying that $600 was too much for American citizens to get on a weekly basis.
Yeah, isn't that crazy when you think about people trying to put food on the table? And they ran a commercial in Central California, and Donald Trump mentioned Highway 99. Highway 99, a lot of people knew that was a major highway in California before they built Interstate 5, connecting Southern California to Northern California. And when you hear people say, thanks for the water, but you kicked all the workers out. Now we need white people to come out and pick the grapes and the leaves and the lettuce, and they can't find them. They're like Mike Pence. You can't find them anywhere, they see. But it's all fair level war. I do want to just touch on, as we mentioned already, the St. Louis Cardinals, Detroit Tigers games postponed. They may as well say canceled. They don't have time to add it back into the league. But Chicago and St. Louis, that's the big rival. Chicago and St. Louis, that's a tentative schedule set for Friday, Big C, against the Cubs in St. Louis. if you're Chicago and you know that St. Louis has been put on the pause with Detroit, who says they want to go in the same? They already have a problem with bugs. Now they're going to go and have a problem with invisible bugs too, Big C.
Well, you got to look at the rest of the St. Louis organization, Charlton, and the players that are in quarantine, and what's going to happen to them. They were around their teammates during the game and in the shower, in the locker room, on the bus, on the plane.
Yeah.
So you've been exposed to this. You haven't been able to practice social distancing. And that's one of the things that as they sent out that 113-page manifesto from the league to the players saying, read this, and they're like, what?
Read what?
Nobody read that stuff. The players don't know how to practice social distancing.
Right.
Emotions do not allow for you to practice social distancing.
Yeah.
You get excited as an athlete. You're just as jubilant as a 12-year-old playing Little League as you are as a 32-year-old playing Major League Baseball. Somebody hits a home run. Somebody, drives in the game-winning run. Someone, strikes somebody out. You're excited about that, so you celebrate.
Yeah.
And you don't know how to cut off your celebratory system in your body when you're an athlete. You react the same way today as a professional athlete as you did 10 years ago as a kid playing the game.
Yeah, just a lot more money in the bank when they react differently to it. I want to run over to NBA basketball, Big C, and I know there's a lot of things going on in the world. In the bubble, for the most part, the bubble has had some success. We don't know everything yet, and I do know sometimes people don't tell you everything. But NBA basketball, Mike Budenholzer of the Toronto Raptors and Billy Donovan of the Oklahoma City Thunder, they were named co-NBA coaches. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, being chosen, co-NBA coaches of the year is quite an honor. I'm always wondering who gets which half of the trophy when you're coaches of the year in sports, or even MVPs in a sport, Charlton. But a tremendous honor. You think about Oklahoma City doing more than what people expected them to do after losing some key players, but getting back Chris Paul, who is a great leader that people did not give him credit for over the years that he's been in the league. You look at Toronto, they're defending NBA champs.
Yeah.
And Budenholzer had them right there in second place when the season ended in the East, Charlton. So they really didn't have a fall off when you think about where they were. They were in the same position this year as they were last year.
Yeah, it's been, be candid with you, I've seen some really good basketball because I had the chance to just sit down and watch a lot of the basketball games that are being played, Big C, especially, what's going on with the league. And just everybody's just, you got driving with that check engine light on. I think the NBA has covered it up so far. We'll see if it opens up. But I want to touch a little bit on Big C's, top 10, the power rankings of the NBA. I'm going to run by your Big 10, Big C, and then we'll just talk about, what you think about what's going on with them. Number one in Big C's NBA bubble top 10 basketball, the power rankings. You got Toronto Raptors coming in number one. It's arguably everybody has their own opinion. Number two, you have the Milwaukee Bucks. They're coming at number two. The Lakers coming in at number three. The Clippers, they had a big game against the Lakers also a couple days ago. They're coming in number four. The Houston Rockets might even be higher than number five because they keep winning games down the stretch. Boston Celtics, number six. Miami Heat at number seven. Big C has the Thunder's OKC Thunder at number eight. Indiana Pacers, number nine. And Big C has I think you're trying to get some chicken wings when you get down in there, Orlando, because you got Orlando in there at number 10. That's Big C's top 10 NBA bubble power rankings. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I think that's pretty accurate to a degree. Toronto right now is the most dominant team down in the bubble.
Yeah.
The rest really did them well. I think a lot of people mistake all the time what happens during the regular season, just like last year when Toronto went on to win the NBA title. And, Milwaukee's going to be right there in the running. I mean, they still have some kinks to work out.
Yeah.
But, realistically, I think the second best team in the bubble right now is the Houston Rockets. This team can fill it up. And when you have a shortened season, Charlton, and you think about the rest that Harden has gotten and Westbrook has gotten, Harden would play so many minutes during the regular season, it seemed like when it came to the playoff time, is that he was distracted and tired, Charles.
Oh, yeah.
And now he's well rested. And they jacked up 61 threes last night. So you think about that. They're going to make you play some defense or score some points.
Yeah.
But when you jack up 61 threes and you win a game, just like with Toronto, they won all three.
Yeah.
So when we're looking at the bubble, I like where the Clippers are. The Lakers seem to be a little bit disoriented.
Yeah.
Because they're adjusting their lineup all over again. They lost some players and had to bring some players in.
Yeah.
So they don't have full continuity yet, Charlton.
Yeah.
But, realistically, when you get past the top 6 teams, I don't think it's going to be relevant, when it comes in. OKC may sneak up in there.
Yeah.
But, when you look at the East, you got Toronto and Milwaukee. Those are the top 2 teams in the East. I know Boston has a lot of young guns.
Yep.
But Kemba Walker's missed some key time. So that's going to hurt them. In the West, I like Houston. I like the Clippers. And I put the Lakers in third in the West.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they did prior to the season stopping and having LeBron James and Davis on the team,
yeah.
Every NBA team, Charlton, has 2 to 3 legitimate superstars that it doesn't matter who it is or what uniform they're in. It's just who's hot on those days.
Yeah, even I think about the Indiana Pacers beat it up on Philadelphia, 53 points by T.J. Warren. But what I want to ask you about, because I look at Houston too, and everybody, including me, when they got rid of Capella, Big C, I said, my goodness, they don't have a big guy. Who are they going to have to compete with the big men going down in the paint, Big C? But they're like a Ferrari. They just run up and down the court. And I saw a game where they were down by 4 with about 6 seconds to play. And then good old boy Harden got fouled on a 2. They went to the line. And they needed to make one basket and miss the next one. They made a basket, missed the second basket by Harden. And then it was tipped in by Houston, Big C. And they were able to get away with that win. They have been so inspiring because they don't have a big team, but they're running. I guess they're getting people's legs tired. Big C, your thoughts?
You don't have to have a big team in the NBA. Big men are basically obsolete. Yes, Joel Embiid to have a big game here and there.
Yeah.
But the consistency of having a big man, and when we look at this up and down pace of the NBA, you have to look at right now, this point of the season, Charlton, because these players have been so well rested.
Yeah.
They're not worried about taking their time up and down the court.
Yep.
They know that they can run for a 20-game schedule, Charlton. That's stuff all out for 20 games. They'll do that. That's tiresome on the big man. He's not going to want to slow down the offense, wait on him to get down in the post, Charlton, trying to force the ball into the basket. When you can jack up 2 threes and he has to hit 3 baskets underneath, you're going to be ahead of him.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's something about the youth and the longevity that these young guys have that can run up and down the court. Also, NBA basketball, I mean, obviously, anyone can be injured. You have Jonathan Isaac. He tears an ACL, Big C. And, no one wants to see anybody get hurt. We're all talking about COVID-19 staying healthy. And he tears an ACL. And they had a 132-116 victory over the Sacramento Kings on Sunday. Now, it's just a side story. He decided he wasn't going to stand, or he wasn't going to take a knee. He was going to stand for the national, and that's fine. Stand, take a knee, whatever you want. People have a right. That's freedom of speech, freedom of expression. I feel bad for the guy to go down with an ACL, and some people were saying, "Oh, maybe that's just a way to get out of the season foolishly." But some people thought that. I hope he recovers well. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, he had missed a lot of games during the regular season, Charlton. He had only played 30 because of leg injuries that he had suffered earlier in the season. So this is that residual effect of not being in peak condition. And, knee injuries can occur to a player
anybody.
Anytime.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that the young man has to go through this because not only is he going to miss the rest of this season, but the upcoming season because it's going to start a lot quicker.
Yeah.
So he'll be out a season and a half.
Yeah. Before we come up on the Big C pause, I know it's, our power rankings, Big C's ranking, it's just based on weekly performance. Everybody's going to change throughout what happens, throughout the season, Big C. Of course, an abbreviated season based on what players stay healthy or not. But I want to ask you something called the eyeball test. Like the lady in the commercial, where's the beef? The beef wasn't very big on the hamburger. But when I see who I think could be NBA MVP, not going out on a stretch, Big C, you look at Giannis Antetokounmpo. And then I see him on the same court when Chris Harden. You would never go wrong naming Chris Harden MVP, no matter what he's doing. But then you have Russell Westbrook. You can't really go wrong looking at him as a potential MVP. But you see Giannis and Harden. Houston got over on Milwaukee, but it's just one game. Anything stand up with the eyeball test between Giannis and Harden? Big C, your thoughts?
Charlton, it's in the eye of the beholder. It's who you like is what it comes down to. As far as who's going to get the MVP, it's a popularity contest. It's not always about the best player. It's about popularity. When you look over the years, you see Steve Nash beat out LeBron James for an MVP.
Wow.
Was he a better player than LeBron James? No. But he won back-to-back MVPs. And we've seen this throughout time in the NBA. It's who the media likes at the moment. Who's the darling? Who's the flavor of the month?
Yeah.
Yes, Giannis is a dominant player in the NBA, but James Harden is averaging 37 points a game. So he's a huge reason why Houston has been where they've been for the last 3 years.
Yeah.
There's improvements needed in all games. But as you look at it, Charlton, it's just about who you want to take to the dance.
Yeah, you want, and they both got Ferraris, so you take them to the dance, and I'm sure they don't have to. That's the kind of car you kind of go to the dance by yourself, if that makes any sense to you, Big C. So it's all fair in love and war. Go by yourself. You may not leave by yourself. I want to touch on one more story before we get into the Big C pause, because we are talking about NBA basketball. NBA, Oklahoma State Representative Sean Roberts. Good old boy. He found a way to bring racism back into professional sports. This representative threatens to increase the Oklahoma City Thunder's taxes because people exercise their First Amendment, freedom of speech and expression, Big C. If they kneel during the national anthem, he wants to raise taxes on Oklahoma City Thunder. Let me make a request to Oklahoma City Thunder and the owners. There's a state called Washington. It's up in the great Northwest. There's a lot more jobs for people, and they're looking for an NBA team to return to the state of Washington. They used to have a team called the Seattle Supersonics. If Oklahoma City has a good boy that wants to raise taxes on a team that exercises their First Amendment speech, it might be a better place to live in Seattle, Washington. The Seattle Thunder would not be a bad name. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as we think about the systemic racism that goes on in this country, and this is the last place that Trump had a rally was down there in Oklahoma.
Everybody got sick.
And you have a state representative talking about raising a professional organization's taxes because the Negroes on the team are taking a knee for social justice. They said social injustice is fine in Oklahoma, is what he's basically saying.
Yeah.
That we can have racism in this state.
Yeah.
We can have social atrocities in this state. We don't care about you people as a people. We don't want you taking a knee because we back the president. We don't back you. But think about the number of jobs that the Oklahoma City Thunder, Charlton, create in the city of Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Not just the players, but the external staff of that arena that they have built there, Charlton.
Yeah.
They have that arena with all those employees that are from the state of Oklahoma that would lose if this team decides to go.
Yeah.
But that's just the racism that we still have in America. When you're saying that you're white and you want to be in total power and you don't want anybody to oppose your racist thoughts, and I will charge you more money because I'm a racist, and if you don't do and actions I want you to do, just shut up and dribble.
Yeah.
We will run you out of town.
Yeah, if you exercise your First Amendment, we're gonna run you. But they're gonna run you out of town. But that is the same city that had the Black Wall Street, and they murdered hundreds of people just because.
That was in Tulsa.
In Tulsa,
in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, okay, Oklahoma City, but still, that's still in Oklahoma. It's still the same state of Oklahoma. And last I checked, they have the same water that runs in the canal between Tulsa and Oklahoma City, and the same type of mentality. But I would tell you, that to me, if you're Adam Silver and you have this redneck mentality down in Oklahoma, why are you exposing players to that? Send them back up to Seattle, Washington. I'm sure they'd be happy to bring them back. We'll take the Big C pause, also known as the Big C timeout. We'll be back in just a moment. are back from the Big C Timeout, also known as the Big C Pause. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe, iHeartRadio Podcast. You can follow Big C Sports on Apple Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on Google Podcasts. You can follow Big C Sports on a lot of apps, and I really appreciate the growth of Big C Sports. I want to, just adding on to what the knucklehead said in Oklahoma, Big C, about raising taxes on OKC Thunder, grown men who exercise their First Amendment rights. And I wonder if that knucklehead actually served the country, or did he run like a lot of guys that run? You know, POTUS was saying he's going to help bring more water to California for the migrant workers to pick the fields, the agriculture, Big C. But he locked a lot of them up, chased a lot of them back to Mexico. So now they're telling white guys they got to get white people to go out and work the fields for $10 an hour, Big C. They won't do it, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, that profit margin gets real thin, Dalton, when you got to hire American workers to go out and do that menial labor. You know, and like I said, just like with Oklahoma City, you stated that the team should go back to Seattle. Wherever they would go would be great. Kansas City used to have a team called Sacramento. Vancouver used to have a team called the Grizzlies.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we look around at various cities in America that would love to have an NBA franchise, Charlton, and not have to deal with the knuckleheads there in the Midwest of this country, you know, boasting that they're redneck and racist.
Yeah.
Because we want to have social justice.
Yeah. Maybe they should form an all-white NBA basketball team in Oklahoma City. I'm sure they won't find them for walking around with guns and assault rifles, threatening to behead a governor in Michigan. That's another state, but same mentality, Big C. And POTUS said nothing. He said nothing. He said nothing. He didn't send in the federal troops. He didn't send in any of these guys that are kidnapping people and unmarked cars and clothing. POTUS said nothing. But they walked around with assault rifles and threatened to behead a governor of Michigan. And these knuckleheads, they get no one to say, hey, that's not acceptable in this country, and we're going to call in law enforcement. No one even looked into it, Big C. Our #1 priority, at least one of them, as far as the country and society is concerned, is racial justice, actually racial injustice that exists in our country, and trying to make sure that everyone is just like Dr. King said, judge people not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character. And so a lot of people are dyslexic, so they judge people by the color of their skin and not the content of their character. But just as a reminder, in this world, a lot of people really do not understand the breadth and the depth of the horrific situations that many African Americans have been in for so long. When you exercise your First Amendment rights to take a knee, they want to raise taxes on you to make it more difficult on an organization. You could be a white person walking around with AK-47s and threaten to behead a governor in a different state, and POTUS and his cronies say nothing, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that was a great quote from San Antonio Spurs' Greg Popovich made that quote. You know, and when you think about it, Charlton, very few white men in America will stand up and quote social justice for the Negroes in this country.
Yeah.
Greg Popovich has always done that, and he was also served in the military, Charlton, so he understands the plight of social injustice in America.
Yeah.
We would never have a president that's in office today make a statement like that, understanding what black people go through in America, because he's part of the reason why black people have always gone through those type of treatments.
Yeah.
So when we look at the social injustice in America and what black people have to deal with, we have to deal with it every day because we're black every day.
Yeah.
It's not a news cycle. It's not, well, you know, things are getting better. No, we're black every day in America. And so we wake up with the fear of survival. And I don't know if white society could ever understand that. Waking up in the morning fearing, will you survive the day? It happens to so many black people in America. And they just get up, just walking down the street, the fear of that. It's just like this new video came out today of the George Floyd murder, where he asked the police not to shoot him. He didn't want to die.
Yeah.
He was sitting in the car, and the police had pulled a gun on him already while he was sitting in the car. And he asked them, please don't shoot him. He didn't want to die. And he informed them that he was claustrophobic and he did not want to he could not get into that small car. What they're supposed to do at that point is call a paddy wagon. These are the atrocities that black people go through every day. As soon as he saw the police, he was fearful of his life, and he begged them not to kill him.
Yeah.
You think about that, going through that as a person, and everybody will see that on the news tonight and tomorrow, that you're begging, please don't kill me.
Yeah.
I don't want to die. And that's a hard thing to have to deal with every day of your life when you're a black man, regardless of where you're living at, regardless of how you're dressed, regardless of what you're driving. But to have the fear that you have to ask the police officers, please don't kill you, and you have done nothing wrong. He lost his life over a counterfeit $20 bill. What the police of Minneapolis told a black man is that your life wasn't worth $20.
Yeah, I think going forward, everybody, Dr. King, I was listening to his speeches again when they were celebrating John Lewis, and judge people not for the color of their skin, but the content of their character. I'm going to make sure I memorize that more, because he has such prescience about him, such great knowledge and visionary ability, Dr. King. And so I ask for all good people in the brotherhood of humanity, let's start doing that and legislate in the law that we judge people not by the color of their skin, but the content of their character.
But you think about, even before King made those statements, Charlton, if you go back and you look at old black and white photographs and newsreels from the 40s and the 50s of Negroes in America, they're walking down the street with signs saying, I am a man, I am a person.
Yeah.
And if that doesn't resonate, it's not about the content of your character, the color of your skin. It's that I am a person. I am a man. Black men walking down the street with these signs, placards, stating that I am a person. I am a man. That's how I want to be treated, as a person. It's not about the content of the character, skin. It's that you want to be treated like a person. That's the number one thing that resonates. And I remember watching and seeing these pictures, Charlton, when I was young, that I am a man, I am a person. And if that doesn't resonate in a white mind, which it has not for 400 years, regardless of advancements that have been made, black people are still saying the same thing now that they were 400 years ago, 200 years ago, 100 years ago. I am a person.
Yeah, I was watching this thing on TV. It was called Wild Kingdom, actually. It was Wild Kingdom. And they had lions and gazelles. And the lions were always trying to eat the gazelles. And maybe that's the way nature made it. But what I noticed in that is the gazelles have to always be aware of their surroundings, because they were being hunted. You got to know when you're being hunted and preyed upon. And lions hunt people too. But people took up weapons and they shoot lions. That's why I say all African Americans should be armed, just like the white militia in Michigan. It changes things when you have a weapon to protect yourself. I remember one story when I was a young boy, Big C. There was a white man that came to my mom's house, and he was threatening to get at one of my brothers. I don't know, dating his daughter or whatever. So he was going to come by and do what he wanted to do. My mother opened the door. She had a 12-gauge shotgun. And she could click, click. And that white man turned bright red. I don't know if he wet his pants or not. But she said, if you don't get the hell off my lawn, they're going to be picking you up in body bags. And that white man got in his car. He had a white car. Remember that. Because he got in his car and he peeled out. I never saw him again. But my mother did call the sheriff. And the sheriff told my mother, black woman, you have every right to defend your family. She didn't live in fear. She lived by the fear of the bullet, Big C, so she had no worry about what skin color somebody was, but she did have a weapon. We grew up with guns. I think everybody should have guns. But I also want to get on the West Coast Conference. The Russell Rule, behind Bill Russell, the Russell Rule, like the Rooney Rule, is to encourage the hiring of minority candidates. Bill Russell, 11-time NBA champion with the Boston Celtics, didn't even have freedom in his own city where he won championships. The Bostonians didn't like him. They liked color when it came from suntan and chocolate. But now they understand all men are from Africa. They even have Black Lives Matter on the wall behind Fenway Park, Big C. But the West Coast Conference, the first Division I league, to require all schools, to include a minority finalist for job openings in athletics. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, we're in the year 2020. And it has to be a requirement. It doesn't have to be a mandate. It's just a requirement. You have to interview these individuals. And we shouldn't be at that point in society. Just like I talked about those placards that the black men were walking up and down the street with in protest in the 40s and 50s in America. I am a man. And why are we not judged as just men? Even in the NFL, when it comes to the Rooney Rule, why aren't we judged as just men? Look how many white coaches in the NFL every year have losing records, Charlton.
Yeah.
Losing records. Look how many white coaches in college football have losing records. College basketball have losing records. What do they judge that? As a white coach. That's it. Not a loser. He's a white coach.
Yeah.
They start finding excuses for him. Well, you know, he had injuries on the team. Various things. There's always an excuse. Not that he's a bad coach. It's just he's white with an excuse. We should not have to have any Rooney Rule. We should not have to have any Russell Rule. We should have a societal rule. Hire the qualified black man, period. That's all it should be. Give him an opportunity. Give him an opportunity to fail. Give him an opportunity to succeed. But give him an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. We know life is about competition, Big C. No one's going to give you anything. You got to go take it. And if somebody's not giving you what you want, don't play for them. I mean, don't boycott them. I want to bring this up because we're almost at a close, and amazing, our show goes by way too fast. But I want to get this out like lightning. Like the ice, I think there's a storm called Isaac, I believe, is going up and down the East Coast from the panhandle of Florida. They're expecting it to hit all the way up to Boston, so up to Massachusetts, Big C, over the next week. So I hope that people can heed the warnings there. But when you think about Russell, who led the West Coast Conference, member the San Francisco Dons to a pair of national titles back in 1955 and 1956, and the league says that they want to make sure they're committed to change. Initiatives also include anti-racism education, the expansion of the league's equity, diversity, and inclusion committee, and they put that out on a video. I'm tired of people sending out videos. I'm so tired of it, but it's a gesture. It's like putting a sticker on your check engine light. I want to get your thoughts on that before I get to what I think will be the solution for a lot of people. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as long as you make a public acknowledgement that this is what you're doing, you know, you feel that you get a pass.
Right.
It's like I say all the time, who's in the room where it happened?
Yeah.
Okay? You didn't have any black people in the room where it happened. You don't need to put out a video, Charlton. When there's a job opening and you're getting these resumes from these coaches, it states on there, and they normally have a picture with it, that they're African American. So if that's not enough based on their qualifications, where they've worked at, what is the qualification? You bring in old, retread white coaches all the time. They got fired from one university. You bring them into your university. If they couldn't succeed where they were, how are they going to succeed where you're bringing them to?
Yeah.
This happens all the time. We see it in the NFL. We look at Eric Bieniemy. Everybody gives Andy Reid all the credit in Kansas City, which he should get a lot of it. But when we look at Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, and what he's done, what happened to Andy Reid's previous offensive coordinator? They've gotten head coaches. You got one with a head coaching job in Philadelphia. You got one with a head coaching job in Chicago.
Yeah.
The enemy can't even get a damn interview. Why? Because he's black. If that would have been a white assistant coach that Andy Reid had in Kansas City the last 2 years,
Yeah.
he'd had the pick of the litter of jobs in the NFL. We see it in college basketball all the time. The reason why they don't want to give black coaches, black guys these jobs is because of the money that it pays, Charlton. It comes down to that. You don't want to give these black guys generational wealth. When you come in the college, your buddy Calipari in Kentucky, making over $8 million. Krzyzewski at Duke making $7.7 million. You don't want to put black guys in these positions. And yet they've had black players that have made them successful, so they must have learned something while they were there with the coach.
Yeah, well, I'll say that's the black man's fault, because the reason, I believe in life, just like I learned from my parents and grandparents. If you're expecting equality, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. You got to vote people out of office or you got to choose not to work for people. You can't keep begging someone who's a crooked person to be right. That's like begging Donald Trump to change. He's not going to change until he's voted out of office November 3rd. I want to bring up something because I always say that sometimes things we talk about come true. And God knows it's true. I even heard Judge Judy saying, the universe is going to see your confession in her courtroom. The universe, Judge Judy. Okay, well, I know not everybody got everything from us, but it's just ironic. You were talking about black men. Quit complaining for a job. Quit begging somebody to let you buy a car or buy a house. Quit begging for somebody to let you get in debt and owe them money for 30 years. When the black churches get smart enough to put their money together, become a bank, they'll understand what we're saying. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, you were saying this just last month. You were saying quit begging for someone to give you more money or give you who needs the Rooney Rule? If you got your own damn league, you don't have to beg somebody. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, The Rock. He was on a movie called Ballers. They had a guy by the name of Big C. Drove a black Cadillac Escalade, like yours. I said, you making a movie, didn't even tell me about it. It's okay, I understand. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and an investor group agreed to buy the XFL, $15 million. We were just talking about that last month, Big C. Vince McMahon, his net worth is about $2 billion. Okay? He bought the XFL, and because of COVID-19, it didn't make it. So Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, instead of begging some of these white guys to give him a chance to own something, he comes together and puts together his own group. They bought the XFL, Big C, out of bankruptcy for $15 million. He don't need the Rooney Rule. He just needs to put his money where his mouth is. Your thoughts?
Well, that's what anybody who's going to be savvy in business is. If you take the leap of faith and you think about the minimum money that he paid for that league. This is what I talked about. NFL players going out and purchasing your own league, putting it together. You got guys make more than $15 million a year in the NFL. You didn't need but 15 guys to buy the league.
Isn't that something?
And you'd have had your own league.
Yeah.
You think about the late Kobe Bryant. The late Kobe Bryant owned a professional basketball team over, matter of fact, the league. He bought an entire league over in Italy.
Yeah.
So the late Kobe Bryant was very present about owning his future. And he had purchased a league over in Italy.
Yeah.
So this is the thing that I talk about with black athletes here in America. You have the financial wherewithal. You have the mental savvy. You have the professional representation of how to put together a structure. And take the money that you have. Don't worry about how many cars and houses you can buy. Buy your future.
You know what, Big C? That $15 million is chump change to these guys. With factoring, you times it by 10. To the banking system, they're worth $150 million, and that's without even getting a TV contract yet. You know, when TV comes in and pays these guys money, that's going to be at least a couple $1 billion deal. That's going to be at least a couple $1 billion that they're going to be worth instantly, and they're going to own it. They're not going to have to ask anybody to sign a Rooney Rule so that black guys can get an interview, or that so black guys will get a chance to buy into the league. Now he has what's called FU money. And you know what that means, Big C. It means funnel up or something like that. Funnel up, I think it was called FU money.
I thought it was free money.
Okay. But think about that. I'm telling you. I was telling you he's on a program called Ballers. They got a character by the name of Big C. It's about these two black guys that have a radio show, and they always challenge these white guys that won't let them in. They let you work for them, but you can't have them. You can't have it, but you can work for it. Dwayne "Rock" Johnson, as an African-American man, you can say what you want to say about begging white guys for a job. Don't beg them for anything. If you go compete against them and you give people a chance to buy stock in your own league, screw the NFL. They're saying screw you. They'll let you play in front of COVID-19, Big C. This season's not going to start till 2021. So anyone that wants to blame anybody for something, if you're smart enough to do your own thing, don't complain. That's how we came together with Big C Sports. We worked around some white guys that were doing some dirty business, some funny business, Big C. We were called the N-word. We were called uppity. We were called a lot of stuff. They were sabotaging shows. We didn't sit there and beg them. They're off the air now. When we were at Salem Media, and I'll throw it to you in 30 seconds, we were at Salem Media in Northern California. That stadium has like 112 stations. It was the first time in the history of that station that they covered Monday Night Football. It was on the Wall Street Business Network. It wasn't a sports station, but we made it a sports station. And for the first time in the history of that station, they covered NFL Monday Night Football. It's not on now since we left, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, you have to open people's eyes from time to time to see that you're a viable product, and they don't always appreciate you until you've left the room. You know, people have many ways of showing their importance. We showed them how important we were to them, but they didn't appreciate it. And they also figured that if they could do it, anybody.
They bought some white dudes and it failed.
It's not always that case.
Yeah.
You have to be able to fit into whatever situation you are to make it tangible. We did that. They could not do that. They didn't have an understanding of where we were, and we succeeded where they failed.
Yeah. They brought in a couple of white guys. Hey, Joe. Hey, Bob. We're going to have Monday Night Football on tonight, and the Kansas City Chiefs are playing the Oakland Raiders. I mean, it just didn't work. They tried to steal it, but they couldn't work. And now we're on a lot of platforms. And people keep saying, so Ron bought the XFL for $15 million, but the NFL is worth $9 billion. No, the NFL is not worth $9. It's worth $15 billion. And the reason it's worth $15 billion is because of TV contracts. When you build any house, you got to lay the foundation first. But before you lay the foundation, you got to have the plans. And when you have the plans, you got to lay the sewage and the water system, and then the foundation, and then you got to put up the walls, and then you got to put up the roofing on the house, and then you put the stucco, and then you paint it, and then you move in furniture. You say, man, what a nice house. No, it all started with the plan first, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, everything starts with a plan, but you have to be able to live through that plan. You have to see it from its infancy on the way up. You know, it's almost like as you talk about your friend, the president, all the time. And as he's saying, you know, the reason why we have so many coronavirus positive tests is that we test so much. Give me this equation, and I'm not a very smart man. He's
right.
much more smarter than me.
Right.
If you don't test for pregnancy, does that mean you're not pregnant? You know, if you are pregnant, I'm trying to get that equation. He said, you know, people that are positive, we wouldn't know they were positive if they didn't test so much.
Yeah.
So a person that's pregnant and thinking they're pregnant, if they don't take that pregnancy test, maybe the pregnancy will go away.
Yeah, Big C. I'm 1,000,000% sure I am not pregnant. Okay, just so you know, Big C. But it'd be a miracle baby, just like Jesus Christ was a miracle baby, right? It's all fair, love, and war. But I think quit begging people and go get your own stuff. If you got to beg another man, how long can you stay in his house? He can tell you get out when he wants you to get out. But if it's your house, you stay with it as long as you want to. Big C, NCAA football, Northwestern University become the latest Big Ten team to test positive. They have 14 players quarantined. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, when you think about the Big Ten, Charlton, 16 in this conference have gone into quarantine. How many does it take for them to end the season? I know it's a Big Ten, and 6 is more than half of 10, but that's still not half of the conference.
Yeah.
And so as you look at this, how much Russian roulette are these conferences willing to play with these players?
Yeah.
I know last week we talked about that extended face mask that really means nothing as far as droplets go.
Yeah.
You're going to suffocate inside that face mask on one of them hot, humid days down in the South, Charlton, with that on. So as we look at this, and it's showing more and more that these presidents and athletic directors don't give a damn about the health of the athlete-student.
Nope.
Or the athlete-student, or what is it, student-athlete?
Either way.
I don't know what it is, athlete-student.
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
It's like, how much money you going to bring us?
Yeah.
We don't care. We just need you out on the field. If you get sick, we got 100 other guys on the sideline that are willing to play.
Yeah. It's kind of like the pimps do the women that they get to work for them. They don't care. Just bring me my money. Pac-12, Big C. I'm proud of the Pac-12 conference. I think they have a written contract. You know, everyone say get it in writing. They say get it in writing. Pac-12 players, they have a written contract and some player demands for Pac-12. Safe play during the pandemic. Fighting for racial injustice, to get rid of racial injustice, to get rid of it, Big C. Economic and fair compensation. We know not paying players is a crime in itself, and it's just not right to do that, Big C. Protecting all sports, not just football, so they're looking out for the whole conference. And then this is important because you talk about this all the time. Maybe they follow Big C Sports. Obtaining long-term health insurance, so even after you're no longer there, if your problem occurred while you were there, that you are not just kicked down the road, you have long-term health care. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, it's been antitrust for a long time not to pay players. But as you look at this scenario, Charlton, where these players want some equality, this is the only time, I think, over the next year, year and a half, that collegiate athletes can put demands on universities that have to be answered.
Yep.
If you want us to play, you're going to have to pay us.
Yeah.
And that's what they really should fight for in the next month, Charlton. Before we take a snap, we're all going to get paid. Because these universities have showed their greed factor and how much the money means to them. And they're not willing to share it with the athletes, but the athletes have to go produce it for them.
Yeah.
So this is a point in time, Charlton, that these athletes need to say, we're not strapping it up until you pay us.
Amen to that, Big C. You can follow Big C Sports 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on the #1 podcast network in the universe. You can follow it. You can follow it. Just keep following it. Say Big C Sports Podcast. So that's called the College Summer Player Empowerment, Big C. In the last few minutes, NFL football. Carolina Panthers, Chris Miller opts out, COVID-19, Big C. But a bigger story than that, and I think it's a bigger story, because if you look at NFL football prodigal sons, Detroit Lions, Matt Stafford, he's on the reserve COVID-19 list. So it's unclear whether he tested positive or was he around somebody who did. But that's a big name for a white quarterback that they love. He hasn't won anything, but they made him a $100 million contract anyway. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, as you look at the length of contract and what you're going to pay, you're paid on complexion in the NFL, and it's been that way for a long time.
Yeah.
You got to look at all the upheaval that when Russell Wilson demanded his contract last year, that either Seattle pony up or he was going to stay at home with his wife and kids.
Yeah.
And all the media, it was a lot of vitriol in the media about how can Russell Wilson, how can this black guy demand an organization pay him above these white quarterbacks in the league that have never won a Super Bowl.
He knows his
worth. He's been the two of them, Charlton.
Yeah.
So as we look at the disparity of how they treat these players and the money disparity in that, Charlton, it's still going to go on for a long time.
Yeah, it always does. But you got to know your worth. If not, you just got to know your worth. NFL football news, Big C. Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl champion coach Doug Peterson also tests positive for COVID-19. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, that's just the tip of the iceberg. This is going to come up daily and weekly about NFL players testing positive for COVID-19 and coaches. Now, there's a lot of flack about players opting out of the season. I believe it's up to 37 right now.
Yeah.
Players that have opted out for the season. And I don't know why the media is so anti-player when it comes to this. Now, the last time that I checked, Charlton, throughout the history of the NFL, they opt out of contracts with players all the time. They opt that player out of the season when he's getting nothing.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so he said, hey, bye, see you.
Bye, Felicia. Bye, Felicia.
So for a player to opt out of a season and get a guaranteed $350,000, that's not bad.
Not bad. Denver Broncos lineman, Mr. Ike Emanuel, he opts out of the season. Von Miller earlier had tested positive for COVID-19. He's the most valuable player, I believe, for the Denver Broncos. And I don't know what his health is like now, but I'm a lot of guys, they're going to do what they got to do. NFL football, Cleveland Browns, Odell Beckham, he changed his mind. First he wasn't going to play, and now he decided that he's willing to play Russian roulette. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, everybody that's in training camp and all of that, they've decided they want to be there, but I'm still not sure, Charlton, that this season will manifest itself. I think they're going to get to a point that the positive tests are going to be so high, Charlton, by the end of September, is that they're just going to have to shelve the season.
Yeah, we'll just have to keep our eyes and ears open. Last story, in Brazil, the soccer teams are not following the COVID-19 protocol and just trying to stay safe and wear a mask. And a lot of those players, they're just not seeing the same science or not paying attention to the same science. So that's in Brazil, and people understand this. It's a worldwide challenge. You can stay safe as possible, social distancing, wear a mask, wash your hands, all those things we know. helps a lot of people stay safe. Also, New Orleans Saints, they're going to rent a hotel, Big C. They're going to make their own bubble. You can't have a hotel in New Orleans, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, I mean, New Orleans is a very tight city.
Yeah.
You can't go 4 feet without running into somebody in that city. So renting a hotel, how long are they going to rent the hotel, Charlton? Is it just going to be for training camp? Is it going to be after training camp break?
Yeah.
Do they plan on doing this the entire season? And I don't think that players, especially those who have families, can stay away from their family for an entire season. And they're talking about sending kids back to school in the state of New Orleans, Charlton. Those kids are going to go someplace and get COVID-19 and bring it back to their dad. The dad's going to come back to the team.
Well, we hope that people can just pay attention to science, not the guys that are changing their mind and saying they were dumb and lied to you. Again, POTUS came to California, and he said, yeah, what's that long highway, Highway 99? Yeah, that's the highway that has a lot of the food that comes out of California that feeds the whole world. But he chased off most of the Hispanic workers, and he gave the white men who own the land some water, and they're saying, now we need workers to mind the farm, Trump. He had no answer for that, Big C. Back in the day, there's a man by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man, and he would always tell Ali, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble, Big C. What are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, as the NBA has gotten up and going, Charlton, and you got teams on some hot streaks and some teams like New Orleans who were put in there just to get Zion in, who won't be in there much longer. Hopefully the rest of the players stay safe in the bubble. And hopefully the frontline healthcare workers stay safe also, Charlton.
Yeah.
Nurses, doctors, first responders, stay strong, stay safe. We're praying for you.
We're praying for you, and you can do it. You just got to keep hope alive. Every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, when you follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever an excuse for domestic violence or racism. If you know any man, woman, or child going through that garbage, please pick up the phone and ask for help, because no man, woman, or child should ever have to go through that garbage on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.